In the previous lesson, I demonstrated that you can create a very rich graphical user interface with Delphi. We will create the same user interface in this lesson. You must also create the graphical user interface while you are following this lesson. So, take the time and pause the video every time I make a change on the user interface, and go and do what I've done in your own copy of Delphi. Let's start by opening a new application in Delphi. Here, I have a new application called Project 1 that contains a form called Form 1. I select the form, and then I change the caption property to Contact Form. Further down in the Object Inspector, I change the height property to 680, and then the width property to 620. Next, I add the panel component from the Standard tab of the component palette on my form. I will place this one on the top of the form. I want a flat panel, so I change the bevel outer property to BV None. The caption of the panel must change to Contact Information. To change the location of the panel, I scroll down and I change the left property to 96 and the top property to 16. I must also change the font property. I click on the Browse button in the font property and the font dialog window pops up. In the font box, I type TAH and select the Tahoma font. The font style is bold and I want a nice big font, so I make the size 24. The color of the font must also change to blue. There you can now preview how your font will appear in the sample area. If you are happy with that, click on the OK button. As you can see, the panel is too small for the font that I use. But that is not a problem. To adjust the width of the panel, I just drag the handle on the right hand side until I can see the whole caption. Remember, you can also set the width property. Let's do that. Scroll down in the Object Inspector to the width property and set it to 435. Before you add another panel, first select the form. This is very important, because if the panel is selected and you attempt to add more components, they will display inside the panel that is selected. In other words, they will be the children of the panel. After you clicked on the form, you can go to the Standard tab of the component palette and add a second panel. Place this panel on the left hand side of the form. This panel will be our personal information panel. Change the height property to 265 and the left to 32. Scroll down and also change the top to 88 and the width to 241. Click on the form again and add the third panel. Place it to the right of the personal information panel. This panel will be our address information panel. Change the height to 153 and the left to 304. Scroll down and change the top property to 88 and the width to 241. Make sure you click on the form again when you are done. Now add the fourth panel under the Address Information panel. This panel will be our Contact Details panel. Change its height property to 97 and the left to 304. Scroll down and change the top to 256 and the width to 257 and click on the form again. Add the fifth panel on your form. This panel will be our Actions panel. Change the bevel inner property to BV Lowered. You will now have a panel that looks a little bit different than the other panels. Now, change the height to 57 and the left to 32. Scroll down and change the top to 368 and the width to 529. I want to remove the captions displayed on the last 4 panels that I added. To do that, I select them by dragging over the 4 panels. I then go to the caption property, select it and press my delete key on my keyboard. Before I add the next component, I click on the form again to select it. From the Standards tab in the Component palette, I select a memo and place it on the bottom of the form. Change the height property to 177 and to reposition the memo, change the left property to 32 and the top to 440. Now also change the width property to 529. Okay, now I must place components inside the panels. You must first select the panel before you can add other components in it. I select the Personal Information panel, and to add 4 labels to it, I hold my Shift key and I click on the Label component. Then I place the labels in the panel. To stop the multi-select behavior, I click on the pointer icon in the Component palette. Now let's change the captions of the label. Select the first label and change its caption to First Name. Change the second label's caption to Surname. The third label's caption is Gender. And the fourth label's caption is Age. Before we add the rest of the components, let's first go to the Object Tree view and see what happened there so far. As you can see, the 5 panels and the memo are children of Form 1. But what I want you to see is that the 4 labels that I just added became children of the panel called Panel 2. Now let's select the first name label and change its left property to 16 and its top to 25. Then select the surname label and change its left to 27 and its top to 57. Select the gender label and change its left to 34 and its top to 90. Select the age label and change its left to 56 and its top to 125. Now click on the panel to select it. We are now going to add 2 edits for the first name and the surname. Place the 2 edits in the panel more or less next to the first name and the surname labels. Select the first edit and change its left property to 88 and its top to 16. Scroll to the bottom of the Object Inspector and change the width to 137. Select the second edit and change its left property to 88 and its top to 49. And also change the width to 137. Select the first edit and go to the text property. Select the text and press the delete key on your keyboard to clear the text. Select the second edit and do the same. Both edits are now cleared. Select the panel to add more components. Add a combo box from the Standard tab and position it next to the gender label. Change the combo box's left property to 88. Go to the Items property and click on the Browse button. A dialog window pops up. Type the word male into the editor. Press Enter on your keyboard and type the word female on the next line in the editor and click on the OK button. You just added 2 items to the combo box. The combo box's item index property is set to -1 by default. This means that none of the items that I added will be selected by default. If I change the item index to 0, male will be the default item. But if I change the item index property to 1, female will be the default item. In Delphi, index numbers start with 0. So the first item that I add will have an index number of 0. Let's change it to 0 to make the default male. Go to the style property and change it to CS drop-down list. This style prevents the user from typing another value into the combo box. The user will therefore only be able to select one of the two items that I provide. Change the top to 81 and the width to 137. Now let's add a spin edit for the age field. The spin edit is in the samples tab of your component palette. Select it and position it next to the age label. Change the left property to 88. I do not want the user to use an age older than 100 years or younger than 1 year, so I change the max value property to 100 and the min value to 1. Change the top to 115 and the width to 55. Let me show you another trick. Click on the form to select it and add an image component on the form. When you add an image, you will see dotted lines. The image is a child of the form. If you now attempt to drag the image component into a panel, it disappears behind the panel. If that is the case, it means that the image is not contained by the panel. Therefore, the user will not see the picture that it displays. You can also see in the object tree view that image 1 is a child of form 1 and not the panel. If you made a mistake like this, it is easy to solve the problem. You can just select the image in the object tree view and drag it on top of the panel's name, in this case panel 2. Now the image component is visible in panel 2. It is now a child of panel 2. Now select the image component and drag it into position. Go to the height property and change it to 105. And change the left to 64. Also change the top to 152 and the width to 129. Now let's display a picture in the image component. Click on the Browse button in the Picture property to display the picture editor. Click on the Load button. Another dialog window pops up. You can now go and browse for a picture or photo on your hard drive. I will go and get the picture that I already saved for this lesson. After I select the picture I want, I click on the OK button. Now that is not really what I had in mind. Let me explain what happened here. The happy face picture that I loaded is too big to fit into the image component, so I can't see the whole picture. To solve this problem, go to the Stretch property and make it true. Now you can see the happy face picture. Okay, now let's add components to the Address Information panel. Select the panel and add 4 labels to it. If you look at the object tree view, you can see that the labels are now children of the panel named panel 3. Select the first label in the panel and change the caption property to Street. Change the caption of the next label to City. The next label's caption is Country. And the bottom label's caption must change to Postal Code. Select the street label and change its left to 56. Select the city label and change its left to 69. Change the country label's left property to 46. And change the postal code label's left to 17. Now let's add 4 edits and position them next to the labels. I want to remove the text displayed on all these edits. I press the Shift key on my keyboard, and while holding it down, I click on the edits. Now go to the text property in the Object Inspector, select it, and press the Delete key on your keyboard. Select the edit next to the street label and change its left property to 96. Select the edit next to the city label and also change its left property to 96. Select the edit next to the country label and also change its left property to 96. Select the edit next to the postal code label and also change its left property to 96. Select the edit next to the street label and change its top to 16. Select the edit next to the city label and change its top to 48. Select the edit next to the country label and change its top to 80. Select the edit next to the postal code label and change its top to 112. Select the edit next to the street label and change its width property to 137. Now select the edit next to the city label and also change its width property to 137. The edit next to the country label's width must also be 137. And the edit next to the postal code label will have a width property of 50. Now let's add components to the Contact Details panel. I click the panel to select it. First add 2 labels to the panel. In the object tree view, we can see that the labels are now children of the panel called Panel 4. Select the top label and change its caption to Telephone. Now select the second label and change its caption to Email. Select the Telephone label and change its left to 16. Select the Email label and change its left to 48. Select the Telephone label and change its top to 16. And the Email label will have a top property of 48. Now add 2 edits to the panel and position them next to the labels. Then press the Shift key on your keyboard and click both edits to select them. Go to the text property in the Object Inspector and click on it. Press your Delete key on your keyboard to clear the text displayed in the edits. Select the edit next to the Telephone label and change its left to 88. And select the edit next to the Email label and also change its left to 88. Select the edit next to the Telephone label and change its top property to 10. And the Email label must have a top property of 43. Add a checkbox on the panel and position it under the Telephone edit. Change the caption of the checkbox to Send Newsletter. And change the width to 122. Change the left to 88 and the top to 72. I must add buttons to the Action panel. I select the panel and I will first add a normal button. Change the caption of the button to the word display. Change the button's left to 16 and change the top also to 16. The other two buttons that I need are bitmap buttons. They can be found in the additional tab of the component palette. Add two bitmap buttons and position one in the middle of the panel and the other one on the right hand side of the panel. Select the first button and change its kind property to BK retry. Notice the bitmap picture that displays on its surface. Also notice the caption change to retry. Change the caption to reset. Change the left to 224 and the top to 16. Now select the bitmap button on the right hand side and change its kind property to BK close. Notice the bitmap and the caption that changed to close. Change the left property to 440 and the top to 16. One last thing before we save and test the application. Select the memo and click the lines property in the Object Inspector. Then click on the Browse button. An editor window pops up. In this window you can add text lines to the memo component. At the moment there is only one line, but we do not want our users to see that line. So let's remove it. Press the backspace button on your keyboard until the editor displays 0 lines on the top. Click on the OK button. And that's it. Your graphical user interface is done. All we need to do now is to save the program and preview it. Let's go and find out how our users will experience the graphical user interface. Click the Run button on your speed bar or press the F9 key on your keyboard. Before the program can run, Delphi will first ask you to save your files. In the dialog window that pops up, I browse to the folder that I created in Lesson 8. I placed that folder on my desktop and I named the folder Delphi Schools Video Projects. Inside that folder I create a new folder for the application. I name the new folder Contact Information. To open the new folder I double click on it. The unit file's name is frm contact information _u. So I type that into the file name box and I click the Save button. I will call the project file contact information _p. So in the next dialog window I type contact information _p into the file name box and I click the Save button. Our program is now in runtime, so let's test it while it is running. Enter a name and a surname into the edits in the Personal Information panel. Then select a gender from the combo box. To enter your age you can use the up and down arrows of the spin edit, or you can simply type your age into the spin edit. Type your address into the edits in the Address Information panel. Now type your telephone number and email address into the edits in the Contact Details panel and click the checkbox to confirm that you want to receive a newsletter. Click on the Display and Reset buttons. Nothing happens because we didn't instruct the buttons to do something. However, the Close button has its own built-in code to close the form. Click on it to close the program and the program now breaks out of runtime. Let's quickly look at the names of the components in the object tree view. All our components receive default names like Panel 1, Panel 2, Panel 3 or Label 1, Label 2, Label 3 and so on. It is very difficult to remember the purpose of every component by referring to those default names. For example, I can't remember what the purpose of Edit 6 is, because the name alone doesn't describe to me what the edit is for. In programming, it is very important to assign proper and descriptive names to all your components. And that is what you will learn in the next lesson. We will look at the rules and conventions of component names, and I will also explain the benefits of proper names. We will also assign names to all the components that we added in the GUI we created in this lesson.